Open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the dominion of Satan to God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and an inheritance among those who have been sanctified by faith in me. Acts 26, verse 18. This verse was Paul's Great Commission, so to speak. Paul is testifying in court, but it's what Jesus actually said to him. He told him that he was going to send Paul to the Gentiles to open their eyes so that they may see. And for me, the first thing that it reminded me of was some of the messages we've been hearing this week and the fundamental biblical truths that there must be a continuous repentance in my life. There has to be a constant willingness. It says, open his eyes that he might see. Is there a constant willingness in my heart for my eyes to be opened and to turn from whatever darkness remains? Unconsciously, as we heard, I want to have a passion for the Lord to shine his light on those areas of darkness and a real true willingness for my eyes to be opened. But then ultimately, the Lord wants to send me also. I pictured it almost like a cup. The Apostle Paul was sent with this cup of salvation to the Gentiles, to people who never knew anything about the message of God's love. And I think about myself. I'm to be sent with a cup, so to speak, a cup of salvation, certainly to my coworkers, but even to my children, even to my wife in my home. I'm sent to proclaim it. And I want to be passionate. The next verse in Acts 26, if we look at it, his own testimony is, I wasn't disobedient. I didn't turn back. I wasn't disobedient to the heavenly calling. And I was thinking, I want that to be true for myself, that I could say I wasn't disobedient. I want to have a passion for souls in my life as well. Lord, open the eyes of my children that they might turn from darkness to light. Open the eyes of my coworkers that they might turn from darkness to light. But as I was meditating on that this week, I had to be honest and say, so many times I don't have that attitude at work. I'm caught up with all sorts of responsibilities. I lose that sense of that heavenly commission, so to speak, that I'm being sent with a cup of salvation. So many times at home, I get caught up in, the noisiness or the meltdowns or whatever, and I lose the attitude. And I was asking the Lord, what keeps me from having this heart? What keeps me from having this prayer, like a burning commission that you're sending me into my home, into my workplace with this desire to share with others the cup of salvation that you've given to me? And the Lord gave me a simple picture. The reason that I can't receive the cup of salvation is because I've got a sword. My natural man is bearing a sword. There's a tendency to respond with a sword. If unreasonable demands come from my coworkers, I've got the sword of self-defense and justification and why I shouldn't have to do that. And what if we do this, right? Kids melt down in my home, I'm pulling out the sword of irritation and lack of understanding. No wonder there's no cup of salvation in my hand. The Lord wants to put the cup of salvation in my hand, but my hands are full with this sword. And I thought of Jesus. He's the author of my salvation. And he first extended the cup of salvation to me. And I wondered, how did he do it? And I was reminded of what he says in the garden in John chapter 18, if you want to turn there with me. John chapter 18, it's when they come to arrest Jesus. And if you look at the end of verse 11, you know what Jesus sees? He doesn't see betraying Judas. I don't have any Judas in my life, but I have irritating, unreasonable coworkers maybe, or children who sometimes have difficulty controlling their emotions or things like that. Definitely not Judas, but if I can't run with foot soldiers, how can I run with the horses? And what does Jesus say? The cup which my Father has given me, shall I not drink it? He didn't see Judas. And what the Lord spoke, he saw his Father. And what the Lord was speaking to me is, if I want to bring the cup of salvation, I have to stop seeing Judas in all of my situations, so to speak. many Judases. I have to see my Father. I have to be willing to drink the cup that he gives. The cup may be, as we heard today, it may be as painful as a flaming sword even. Am I lifting my sword to defend myself and to deflect all? No wonder the flaming sword won't fall on my life when I'm constantly defending myself and fighting for my rights and asserting my comfort and all these things. I have to see my Father. As long as I'm seeing Judas, a betrayer, an unreasonable demand, a meltdown, as long as I'm seeing that, there's no way I can have a cup of salvation in my hand. Look at, and this really blessed me to see, look at John 18, verse 11. Look at how it starts. Jesus said to Peter, put the sword into the sheath. When Peter saw Judas coming, he got his sword out. When Jesus saw Judas coming, he saw the cup. And the question comes to me, if I want to bring the cup of salvation to others, what do I have to do? I have to put the sword into its sheath. Just like Jesus said to Peter, put the sword away. Accept whatever the Lord appoints in humility. Don't fight. Stop fighting for your rights. Stop fighting for your comfort. Stop fighting for your plan. And receive what the Lord appoints. That's where he can give me the cup of salvation. I have to drink it first, and then I can extend it to others. So it's a simple picture, but it really helped me see the choice clearly. Either I can accept the cup as the Lord sent it, or I can wield a sword. But if I wield a sword towards others in my life, instead of accepting the cup as the Father has sent it, then I can never bring the cup of salvation. And the reason that prayer of open their eyes that they might turn from darkness isn't on my lips is I'm wielding the sword. And I can never bring the cup until I put away the sword. And the Lord spoke that to me many times this week, at least 4 times, very, very specifically. Put away your sword. Put it away. And especially as I heard the message today, I want to hear that 100 times a day. Allow the sword to fall on me. I don't need to defend myself. Allow it to fall. Allow the crushing to take place. Allow the breaking to take place. Allow the humbling to take place. Whatever it takes, Lord, I want your life to overflow. I want to bring this cup of salvation to others. And I believe that the Lord will help me. I believe he wants to help us all to do that. So I really thank God for this Great Commission, this version of the Great Commission, and for the reminder, we don't need any sort of self-defense. And as it says of Jesus, he kept entrusting himself to the Father. And every time I decide I want to put the sword, my natural man, every day for the rest of my life probably will have a tendency to want to yank out the sword in self-defense of some kind. But I want to remember that every time I have the opportunity to put the sword away, I have the opportunity to entrust myself to my Father again and say, Lord, this situation would have no authority over me. It wouldn't be in my life unless it were given to you from above, unless it were appointed by you for your purpose. So I want to welcome it. I want to humble myself. I want to allow the flaming sword to fall on my self-life. And I want you to renew my mind that I can bring this cup of salvation to the ones that you sent me to, Lord. Do it, please.